But as to the people and the companies that you regulate as chairman of the SEC, do you consider yourself to be their daddy? No. Then why do you act like it?
Gary, are you there?
Chair Gensler, welcome back. It is good to see you despite our significant disagreements. I do appreciate your dedication and enjoy working with you. As you know, the SEC has historically administered securities laws on a bipartisan basis generally. During your confirmation process, I expressed concerns that you might stray from this tradition and use the SEC to advance a liberal political agenda, such as combating global warming and advancing so-called social justice, and push the legal bounds of the SEC's authorities to pursue disclosures that are not financially material to the reporting company. Unfortunately, this appears to be exactly what you're doing. You've added mandatory disclosures on global warming and, quote, human capital, end quote, such as board and employee racial and gender identity to the SEC's agenda. You've essentially said that if large investment advisors and pension funds like BlackRock and CalPERS, who invest other people's money, if they want information about global warming or workforce diversity, it must be disclosed, even if it's financially insignificant and irrelevant to a particular business. Even President Obama's SEC chair, Mary Jo White, opposed using the SEC's disclosure powers for the purpose of, quote, exerting societal pressure on companies to change behavior rather than to disclose financial information that primarily informs investment decisions, end quote. That's exactly what you're doing. And you're well on your way to politicizing the PCAOB after firing all the existing board members. See, it's not the SEC's role nor its expertise as an independent financial regulator with zero democratic accountability to address these political and social issues. Similarly, I've worried that you would favor the paternalistic push by some on the left to restrict investor freedom under the guise of protection while actually harming retail investors. Such harm may result from your apparent opposition to payment for order flow, which helped allow brokers to offer commission-free trading. Payment for order flow allows a broker to keep a portion of the price improvement obtained by routing a transaction to a wholesaler. To my knowledge, the SEC has not demonstrated any failure or harm associated with payment for order flow, which the SEC has allowed for many years. Banning payment for order flow could very well have the effect of eliminating commission-free trading, which would be a grave disservice to average investors. And likewise, you've criticized mobile apps that make investing easy and fun as, quote, gamification, end quote. But in my view, delivering a product that customers like isn't a bad thing. And I worry that you're attempting to fix problems that don't exist today. Today is the best time ever to be a retail investor in the United States of America. Retail investors receive the best execution. A person of modest means can share in the gains of the stock market at negligible transaction costs. We see the tightest bid-offer spreads ever. At least 4 major developments for retail investors made this all possible. Commission-free trading, accounts with no minimum balances, low or no-fee mutual funds and ETFs, and, yes, user-friendly technology like mobile apps. And investors can even voluntarily use a broker who declines payment for order flow but may therefore charge a commission. Now, despite decades of rapidly growing numbers of retail investors participating in stock market gains and enjoying more product opportunities at lower costs, some of my colleagues suggest that the markets are somehow rigged against retail investors. I'd like to hear how it is rigged. Don't retail investors receive dividends like institutional investors? Aren't retail investors entitled to best execution like institutional investors? Don't the value of retail investors' shares and those of institutional investors both increase when a stock price goes up? In my view, the SEC's job is not to make retail investing more expensive or unpleasant or difficult. In America, adults investing their own money should be free to decide how to do so. Let me turn to cryptocurrency, which together with the blockchain technologies, this is a very, very important and very promising new technology. As you know, cryptocurrencies are actively traded on many platforms. A really important question is whether a cryptocurrency is a security for regulatory purposes under the Howey or some other test. Now, based on your public statements, it's pretty clear that you believe that some are securities, but others are not. So I'm frustrated by the lack of helpful SEC public guidance explaining how you make this distinction. What makes some of them securities while others are not securities? I understand that the SEC staff will privately provide feedback and analysis on whether a cryptocurrency is a security, but why is this analysis private? Why not publicly announce what characteristics make a cryptocurrency a security or not a security? In other words, how do you apply Howey and the Reeves tests to these new products? Why wait to make the SEC's views known only when it swoops in with an enforcement action, in some cases years after the product was launched? This is regulation by enforcement, and it's very objectionable, and I'm concerned it can stifle domestic innovation. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope we'll get a better understanding of your views on these and a number of other issues. There are many things on which you and I agree and where we could work together to protect investors, to ensure fair, orderly, efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. I hope we can work together on these really important parts of the SEC's mission. Chairman Gensler, one area that appears to have nearly universal agreement is the benefit of a faster settlement cycle for equity securities. As you know, market participants seem to be confident in a T+1. My understanding is that you support these efforts. I appreciate that. I would just encourage the SEC to move ahead as quickly as reasonably possible so that that can proceed. I also think there's widespread support for fixing the money market fund rule by removing the link between the 30% weekly average liquidity and the possibility of imposing fees and gates. You and I have discussed this. I don't think there's a need for regulatory reforms that would eliminate or reduce the viability of money market funds as an investment, but improving this regulation would reduce the risk that I think the regulatory regime imposes now. I am concerned about the SEC not adequately fulfilling its capital formation mission. Last year's appropriation law instructed the SEC to deliver 2 reports to Congress by the end of June, which would help benefit small public companies. These reports are now past due. I certainly hope the SEC will submit those reports promptly. And you testified to the House that the SEC would have a report on GameStop and Robinhood by this summer. That report has not been produced yet. We got a week left in the summer. I do certainly hope that we will see it soon. Now let me turn to cryptocurrencies. And my time is limited, so I'm going to try to do this as efficiently as I can, Mr. Chairman. But I think I know your position, among other things, is that not all cryptocurrencies are inherently securities, right? That's true.
There are a small number that aren't, but I think that, as Chair Clayton said when he was in front of Congress, I think very many of these facts and circumstances are investment contracts.
So here's my concern. So some are and some aren't is basically what you're saying. And I'm concerned that the SEC has not provided sufficient definition and explained how it would apply the Howey test, which I think is the court standard for determining when something is an investment contract. So, for instance, stablecoins do not have an inherent expectation of profit. They're just linked to the dollar. Now, you might use them in an attempt to make a profit, but that's a second-order activity. Is it your view that stable coins themselves can be securities?
I think that, Senator, they may well be securities. As Thurgood Marshall wrote in the Reeves opinion, in defining the scope of the market that Congress, wished to regulate, Congress painted a broad brush, and it actually included about 35 different things inside the definition of a security in the 33 Act.
I've just got limited time here, so I acknowledge that. Here's my problem, though. I think what you just said was that they may be securities, or that some are securities. To me, a stablecoin doesn't meet the second prong of the Howey test, that there has to be an expectation of profits from the investment. And so if it doesn't meet the Howey test, it looks to me like it's not a security. Now, maybe you've got a good argument for why some are and some aren't. My whole point is, I think we need to have clarity on this. I think you should publicly disclose this. Apparently, there are private conversations where you work with people who are proposing particular structures and you give them advice, or your staff gives them advice. I just think we ought to have that publicly, and we certainly shouldn't be taking enforcement action against somebody without having first provided that clarity.
Well, Senator, this Congress could change the laws, but the laws that we have right now have a very broad definition of security, including a note, including an investment contract and the like. And my predecessor, Chair Clayton, and others actually put out a lot of guidance with regard to the Howey.
I just got to push back a little bit on that. It is broad, but it's well defined. There is a very specific litany of the instruments that constitute securities. As you know this better than I do. Investment contract is one of them. And there is a court decision that lays out the prongs for what constitutes an investment contract. I'm just saying, as a layman who can read English, when I read those tests, stablecoins don't seem to meet that test to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but if I can misinterpret this, I think others could too, and some clarity, public clarity, I think would be helpful.
I see the red light, but I agree with you that some of these tokens have been deemed to be commodities. Many of them are securities, and the Supreme Court has weighed in a number of times. You noted the Howey test. We've talked about the Reeves test was in the 1990s as well, has weighed in, and I think that there's a fair amount of clarity. Over the years, the SEC has even found, believe it or not, whiskey caskets, and the courts agreed in the 1960s were investments. And I think that at the heart of our securities laws was protecting investors against fraud. They get to decide. They get to take the risk. You'll find I'm not negative or a minimalist about crypto. I just think it would be best if it's inside the investor protection regime that Congress laid out.
See, my time has expired, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Gary.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect to you. I followed your career, had quite a career in public service. You've made a lot of money on Wall Street. I respect that. I honor that. But as to the people and the companies that you regulate as chairman of the SEC, do you consider yourself to be their daddy?
No.
Then why do you act like it?
I try to take the oath of office seriously that the SEC is set up to promote investor protection and facilitate capital formation and that which is in the middle.
Yeah, but why do you impose your personal preferences about cultural issues and social issues on companies and therefore their customers and their workers? Like climate change and the Second Amendment. I mean, I'm sure you have personal feelings about abortion. Do you have plans to implement or impose those values on companies?
So I want to thank you for the compliment you gave me, and I've followed your career and have the deepest respect for you too, sir. I think that I am not doing that. I think what I've been trying to do is say, if investors want information about climate risk, and it looks like tens of trillions of dollars of assets under management of asking, we at the SEC have a role to put something out to notice and comment, do the economic analysis, and really see what investors are saying. It's really in that narrow set of chalk lines that we're operating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tester. Senator Lummis of Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for joining us, Chairman Gensler. It's nice to see you. I have two questions. One is specific and the other very, very general. So I'll start with a specific. In your previous tenure at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, you were an advocate of providing no action relief to regulated financial entities within your jurisdiction. Now, over the last few years, the SEC has not provided no action relief to innovators in my opinion, nearly enough. The SEC has also provided 21A investigatory reports on matters of general interest under the Exchange Act. What would you say to innovators who are nervous about approaching the SEC? And how can you improve the use of no action relief and other public statements like 21A reports?
Senator, I thank you for that question, and thank you for our continuing dialogue about innovation. I do think that Congress gave the SEC important authorities, not only to do what you call no action letters, but exemptive authorities and the like. And so I have said, come in, whether it's in the cryptocurrency space or in other innovative spaces, come in, talk to us, and see if our rules for custody, for instance, which I know we've talked about, or transfer agents or something, don't quite fit because they were written in a bricks and mortar time and now we're in a digital time. Let's talk about that. If we need to go to Congress, but maybe we can cobble together something. We did this in money markets in the 1970s. Good people in the state of Pennsylvania, Senator Toomey's state, came into the SEC and sought authorities to do money markets, and that's now a $5 trillion asset class. So I think there's room here to sort things out and try to figure it out, to keep things investor protection focused, but to sort out the new innovations.
And my adjunct question is the general question just about innovation. Do you support responsible innovation?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it's brought us these lights in the room. It's brought us this ability to have a hybrid hearing with your fellow members. I mean, innovation is what supports access, economic activity, and gives so much of us better opportunities in life.
So, given that, how do you right-size the protections that are within your ambit to innovation generally?
No, it's an excellent question that I'm sure this committee grapples with decade after decade. I think it's the core public policy framework around ensuring that the public's not defrauded, that somebody's not misleading them and lying to them, to ensure that if you hold somebody's asset, you don't misuse it or abuse it, so to speak, the physical asset. And then on trading platforms, at the heart of our 1934 Act was that competition basically drives to more efficient market, and people don't manipulate that market, don't front run, for instance, in those markets. And I think that these basic tenets of anti-fraud, anti-manipulation, but pro-competition lower the cost of capital for companies raising money and innovators and entrepreneurs, even if they're using, for instance, cryptocurrencies and the like. But I think that inside that policy envelope that we have is a great deal of opportunity. I think it's at the heart of our economic success these last 90 years that we have deeply market-based economy. I said we have the largest capital markets in the world, almost 70% greater than our economic share, 38 points versus 23 points. There's a reason, and I think it helps our economy, but it's also because it's regulated, anti-fraud, anti-manipulation.
So what gaps do you think exist, and what additional regulatory authority would be useful, both at the CFTC and at the SEC, specifically with regard to digital assets?
I think that we have a great deal of authority. I think there's more clarity than some members on this committee. I mean, I know we're maybe a little bit different on that. But I think that in terms of the gaps, we have a great deal of clarity on, I think, what's a security. But the gaps is the coordination amongst our agencies. So, for instance, the coordination with the banking agencies on stable value coins that Senator Toomey raised earlier. The coordination with my sibling agency that I was honored to chair, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, on the tokens themselves and the platforms. Because to the extent something is a commodity, even the CFTC doesn't have regulatory authority, they have enforcement authority. A wonderful piece that Dawn Stump wrote recently that I thought was worth reading. But working together with the CFTC and how to coordinate. And then there's some in the I would say, infrastructure side, things around transfer agents, custody, and the like that I think we could work with Congress to help clarify.
Thank you very much.
Gary, are you there?
Ticking like tick-tock, moonsuit. We about to lift off. Tick-tock, got you looking at your wristwatch. Don't hip-hop, cause we about to moonshot.
It's Lady E here in motion, following intuition and not emotions. I'm rapping all the women of Crypto Nation, manifesting my crypto goal to come in fruition. I'm buying dips, holding strong, but not for long.